There are so many little interesting details in Middle-earth that if you tried to remember them all, your head would probably explode. There are so many characters, places, names, events, and as a result, there are so many things that even the most die-hard fan would miss or simply not know about. So here are 10 little things you may not have known about Middle-earth, and if you did know them, I apologize for making an assumption. Number 10, Frodo was actually 50 during The Lord of the Rings. And not only was he 50, but he was significantly older than the other hobbits who accompanied him, being 12 years older than Samwise Gamgee. But before you get any ideas, this does not mean that Frodo was some middle-aged guy hanging out with younger guys. Hobbits tend to live between 90 to 100 years old, sometimes growing as old as 130, and they only come of age at 33. In human years, Frodo probably would have been around his mid-30s, so not quite middle-aged, but significantly older than the films cast him. Minor fun fact, Elijah Wood was 19 at the time of filming and portrayed the oldest Hobbit, whereas Billy Boyd, who was 32, portrayed the youngest Hobbit, Peregrine Took. Number 9. The outer wall of Minas Tirith was actually black. This is an extremely small detail and one that is rarely shown in any adaptations. The Minas Tirith outer wall was made of the same black stone that the Tower of Orthanc in Isengard was made out of. This stone was pretty much completely impenetrable and had a completely smooth surface. So yeah, cool little fact, the White City was actually partially black. That sounds kind of weird to say. You can actually see this in the Lord of the Rings Online version of Minas Tirith, and it honestly looks a little odd. And speaking of places, this brings me to number 8. Bree is actually one of the oldest places in Middle-earth. Yes, this dilapidated little town filled with carrot munchers and poor hygiene is older than places like Minas Tirith, Erebor, Isengard, and possibly even Rivendell. Settled sometime in the Second Age by men from Dunland, Bree is some weird anomaly which has somehow survived throughout history when many other places have fallen, even surviving Arnor's destruction. And for a wholesome fact, Bree is the only place in Middle-earth where two races, men and hobbits, although technically hobbits are the same race, but anyway, the only place where two types of people coexist peacefully on a permanent basis. Number 7. Arwen and Aragorn are distantly related. Now, this relation is nowhere near close enough to be considered weird, so leave your Game of Thrones comparisons at home, but Aragorn and Arwen both ultimately descend from two of the very first elves, Glorfindel, who was basically the leader of the Sindarin elves, and Finwë, who basically started the Noldor. Whereas Arwen is only 6 generations down from these two elves, Aragorn is something like 70 generations down. Elros, the first king of Númenor and Elrond's long-dead human brother, is Aragorn's great-grandfather times 63, which makes Arwen Aragorn's extremely distant cousin. I think that is sufficiently far enough away to avoid the next king of the reunited kingdom being an inbred abomination. Number 6. The Tower of Cirith Ungol was actually built by Gondor. The creepy Tower of Cirith Ungol, where Sam rescues Frodo from after he was wounded by Shelob, was actually built by Gondorians. In the beginning of the Third Age, Gondor built multiple forts in Mordor such as Cirith Ungol, Durfang, and the Towers of Teeth on either side of the Black Gate. These fortresses were built to guard Gondor from Mordor, but were also built to keep unwanted things out of Mordor. Halfway through the Third Age, due to the Great Plague, these fortresses were abandoned and ironically would eventually start being used by Mordor against Gondor. Number 5. Balin isn't the only family death Gimli learns of in Moria. Cousin Balin gets most of the attention when the Fellowship arrives in Moria, but he isn't the only family member Gimli loses. The remains on the ground next to Balin's tomb belong to Ori, the dwarf from The Hobbit, which is most memorable for looking stupid. In the Book of Marzabol, which Ori partially wrote, he informs the reader that Oin, the dwarf from The Hobbit who is most memorable for being partially deaf, was taken by the Watcher of the Water when trying to escape out of the Western Gate. Unlike Balin, who was Gimli's cousin, Oin was actually Gimli's uncle. Sad times for Gimli. Number 4. Mordor actually also attacks Rohan during the War of the Ring. Not to be confused with the army that was supposed to stop the Rohirrim arriving at Minas Tirith, this small army crossed into Rohan over the Anduin River. This is barely a footnote in Tolkien's writings, but we know that this army from Dol Guldur crossed into Rohan on the 11th of March, the same day that Denethor sends Faramir to reinforce Osgiliath. The next day, the invaders are utterly defeated by the Ents. We're not sure how or what that would even look like, but giant tree-stomping orcs seems like a safe bet. The people of Rohan have a lot to thank the Ents for. Number 3. Aragorn has fought for Gondor and Rohan before. This one might be a little more well known considering the rumours that the Amazon Prime series was supposed to focus on Aragorn's younger days, but for those who don't know, Aragorn journeyed extensively throughout Middle-earth, serving under King Fengel of Rohan and Ecthelion of Gondor under the name of Thorongil. In an extended edition scene in Return of the King, Aragorn actually mentions this to Éowyn, which leads to her trying to guess his age while simultaneously trying to poison him with her cooking. One of his most notable achievements was launching a surprise strike on Umbar, burning much of the Corsairs' fleet. After this, he mysteriously vanished into the south and east of Middle-earth. It is implied that much of Denethor's dislike of Aragorn comes from working out Thorongil's true identity. However, that doesn't excuse him being a dick to his son. Number 2, Frodo never kills anyone during the entire quest. Frodo was never mentioned to have killed a single person during his entire journey. He wounds a Barrow-wight and a cave troll, but never actually strikes a killing blow, unlike Sam, Merry and Pippin, who killed several enemies between them. Even during the Battle of Bywater during the Scouring of the Shire, Frodo sits out and lets Merry and Pippin do the fighting. There's not really much else to say here other than, well, good job, Frodo. And finally, number 1, Tom Bombadil is the Witch King of Angmar. Okay, no, that was a joke. But it is an actual theory, although the theory is likely a joke as well, but holy shit, I do love this picture. The real number 1 is Sauron has a physical body. Now, this is kind of a big one, and a lot of people probably know this, but a lot of people also believe that Sauron is just a giant flaming eye, or as of recently, a black hole. Sauron does in fact have a physical body, and he spends pretty much all of his time chilling in Barad-dûr. Gollum actually physically met Sauron during his pleasant stay in Barad-dûr's pleasure chambers, and remarks that Sauron still only has 9 fingers, the missing one being cut from his hand by Isildur. This shows how much Sauron's power has declined due to his multiple deaths. Once able to shapeshift and transform at will, Sauron can now no longer assume a form that would bring back his missing finger. Press F for Sauron. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you learned something today, and if you didn't, I apologise. And I'll try harder next time. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, smash that subscribe button, like Gandalf would smash a barrel of pipeweed. If you don't want to see more, then please tell me I am the one person you wish Frodo did kill. This is Darth Gandalf, thank you and farewell.